Hey everyone, I am sick. It is a couple days after Christmas, but I had some work to do and I popped a NyQuil and I feel better, so somehow I got the energy to do this video. So if I look a little funny or don't have a lot of energy, you know why it is. But I want to show you a couple things. First of all, I just finished building the Cinewhoop. If you look on my Instagram, you'll see it there, all the posts about it. It isn't ready to fly. Well, it's actually ready to fly. I set it up already, but I've been feeling so bad that I didn't feel like doing the maiden today. So it might be tomorrow, but here it is. But the real reason I am doing this video is because I have parts here for a Hyperlow RS Plus by Hyperlow. And so to give you a quick backstory, this is the Hyperlow RS 5-inch. I had something to do with the development of this thing, helping Richard make a couple changes on it, because originally this was actually based on the first racer, the 14XX racer, and when he wanted to do a follow-up to it, I gave him some feedback, and it then actually ended up turning into this whole new line that ended up with 4-inch, 5-inch, and from there it went, this is a stretched version. It went into the RS Plus, which is comes a True X, squashed, and I might be also a stretched. I'm not actually sure. Maybe not, possibly not, because I already have this one. But they're very similar. The main difference is the RS is more of a racer, and the RS Plus has a bit more features that make it better for freestyle. First of all, it's stronger, a little bit heavier. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build it under the camera in fast forward, pretty much, speed it up, and when we're done, I'm going to talk to you about a certain couple of features about it when it's actually built. This one is the squished version, the squashed version, which I actually didn't like originally, mainly because I didn't like how it looked. But having flown so many aliens and chameleons in the past, it is actually a shape that I know I'm gonna feel fine with. So even though I actually called it an abomination when he first made it, and I ended up ordering one. So the point is, there's a reason for it. I'm doing a shoot at the end of January where it's going to be a professional shoot, and the main problem, which it's not necessarily a problem, but the main thing with stretch excess or true excess on quads that are very low is that you usually end up with props in the frame. And that's fine if there's a little bit, and you can always trim it off, but it's preferable for professional work to not have props in the video. And that's the reason, for example, Johnny's videos and his newest design is actually a very top high deck to keep the GoPro away from the props as much as possible. But then that kind of affects, you know, the CG and whatnot. Some people say it does, some people say it don't. But the point is that the Hyperlow is based on that theory. It's based on the fact that the lower CG is better. So there are certain compromises that need to be made in order to keep the props out of the video. So I mostly fly Hyperlows, and for racing as well, for like the 4-inch stuff, and I do fly a lot of 4-inch. And the idea behind this one is that it's going to be squashed, so the props will be out of the frame. Worst case scenario, I can always lift the GoPro a little bit more, but I think that stock, it'll be fine, and the props won't be in the video. And I honestly will feel fine with how it feels, because I've flown so many aliens in the past and so many chameleons. Now, the one thing I want to show you before I get started is the design is very similar to the RS, but as you can see, the RS has 1, 2, 3, so 6 standoffs, where the RS Plus has 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. Is that right? Oh yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8. So 2, 4, 6. So it has one more set of standoffs. That is optional, but it makes it stronger as a freestyle frame. It's also thicker, I believe. It's about the same, but it does have, oh, actually it is thicker, isn't it? No, it's about the same, but it does have more bracing at the bottom. So while this guy has just this brace and that brace, the RS Plus has bracing here and bracing there, so it'll be a lot stiffer. And the other nice thing about it is that, see, racing frames are usually trashed really quickly, so things like chamfering and polished carbon and whatnot are not as appreciated because they get wrecked pretty quickly. The freestyle frames, for most people, tend to last longer, especially ones that are used for more cinematography instead of just bashing it in bandos. So this frame is nice because it features two things. One, It has a chamfered edge, but it's very, very soft. Like the chamfering is just very, very minuscule. Just enough so it isn't sharp. And the nice thing about it is that traditional chamfering actually weakens the arms because you take away a lot of surface carbon from the edges, making it narrower. But when you have such little chamfering, it just makes it nice because it's not thick, it's not sharp anymore. And then it still keeps its strength. If you look at this arm, which is from the RS, this one's completely sharp. And if you also look, they're not actually the same. They're very similar, but they're not the same. The RS Plus arm is wider than the RS arm. It has the chamfering. The actual angles at which it hits the frame is different as well, see? So while I think you could get away with putting these on this body, you end up with a different geometry. That's why you want these. And the other very nice thing about it is look at the carbon. Hopefully you can see it in the camera. And you see that wave pattern? So that wave pattern, hold on, turn off the battery. So that wave pattern is basically, I think, weaved carbon, where on traditional carbon sheets you have these layers that go, one goes this way, the other one goes that way, like crosshatch, but they're individual layers glued together. Where on weaved carbon, all those layers are kind of like weaved into each other. That makes it stiffer, stronger, and much harder to break, which is basically really high quality carbon. The nice thing is the top plate and the bottom plate and top plate feature the same carbon, and this is the carbon that can be found on something like the CG, which is Richard's high-end frame. So yeah, this is very nice. And what I'm gonna do, this is gonna be built, like I said, for that shoot for the end of the month. And for right now, I'm gonna put it together, everything in like fast motion, so you can just see it real quick. And then when we're done, we're gonna go over it and you'll see how it looks. And we actually will compare it in the dimensions and basically geometry to a chameleon, to an a CG, and whatever else I can find back there. So let's do it. See if I get some lubrication, I can actually talk. Okay. So, here's the frame. I built it really quickly. it came together really quickly, maybe because I'm so used to the RS and it's very similar. You catch my breath. All I do is walk upstairs. Dang. Whew. Okay, the only thing I did differently was I didn't use these long screws that I normally use for the stack. I usually never use them because they're freaking heavy on any quad really, and I use short screws and some bobbins for soft mounting. The screws I put there are not long enough for that, but I have plenty of screws, so I'll fill that in soon. Now, the build itself, first of all, the quality of the carbon and everything, it's outstanding. I know some people have complained about the quality of the standoffs, but this is the same standoffs that everybody else uses, like Pyro and whatnot. So if you want to improve it, you can always change them out. I will likely run these in the center, and then I will most likely run hex standoffs. Hex standoffs in the front, and I put these blue ones I have there in the back just for looks, but I might do hex and hex simply because they're stronger. The center ones are okay with these, they don't need as much strength. Either way, this is a very strong frame. If you run the steel hardware, it is incredibly strong, which by the way, it is incredibly stiff. For something with very short arms, because the arms connect here, there, and then you got this bracing there, this bracing there, and this bracing there, which the other one does not have, it's a lot stiffer. So this one has a lot of flex because this is the only thing holding it together. But when you put the top plate on it, the top plate acts like a bridge. So it's almost like a car when you have your A pillar to the B pillar to the C pillar. So the whole top of it holds it together very stiffly, which is fine. So it's only very kind of like flexy when it's like this. But this guy here was flexy before I even put the top plate on. I mean, was stiff before I even put the top plate on, so I'm very impressed. I am glad that I don't have to chamfer edges, because I normally do that by hand, and honestly, it's a pain in the ass. So this is, it's very, very good the way it comes. So now, let's talk about the geometry. So as you can see, it is squashed. What does that mean? It's very wide on the front, and together here. So basically the space between this motor and that motor and this motor and that motor is shorter than this space, which is a typical geometry that was invented back then when the Alien was invented, which kind of derives from the H-frame. And the reason for that, again, is to keep the props out of the frame. However, it gives you a characteristic in the way it flies that is very different and not as neutral as, say, a 2X, but some people like it, and honestly, I know I'm gonna like it a lot because of the frames I have flown before. I'm actually moving almost everything to Hyperlow as my old quads get beaten up, or you know, or I retire them and sell them. They're going off, and I'm gonna keep just working mostly with Hyperlow. I really like him. I like Richard. I like what he's doing. I like the designs. I like the philosophy behind the frames, and yeah, this is spectacular. I really like it. Notice that it's not super low. I built it at 20 millimeters. I have done the thing where I put it at 10, I build them at 15 really low, and that's alright. But there is at some point where I think 15 is the sweet spot, but I like 20 millimeters because if I'm going to run an ESC, a 41 ESC with flight control on top, I want to be able to have enough space so that stuff is not jammed together and I can soft mount and I have space to work. And I found that 20 millimeters is actually very, very optimum. Excuse me, if I'm running a setup with individual ESCs and just one flight controller with PDB in the center, then I'll drop it to 15. But otherwise, 20 millimeter is perfect. Now, I know y'all want to see how they compare to other frames. This is a Hyperlow CG, the Automaton Chameleon that you all know, and then we have a Reverb from Impulse RC. Now I don't have another squash frame because I sold all my Aliens to convert to Hyperlow and that thing. But what we really need to look for is this. So this guy here is a 2X. This guy here I believe is a Stretch X. Let's find out. So this guy here is 170 millimeters by 1. Okay, so this is a true X. Even though it doesn't look like it, because this is like an X goes right to the center, it is true X. So this guy is true X. This is squashed. So first of all, let's start with this guy. And as you can see, the motors on the Hyperlow are a lot more inboard, which means you'll see a lot less or no motors, no props in the camera. Okay. On this one I do get some props, so I gotta keep that in mind. And this guy I don't get props in the view, but it is kind of tall. And if you put it against this one, you'll notice that yes, the Hyperlow is more squished, but not by a whole lot. As you can see, the reverb is just ever so slightly longer due to the True X fashion, and this are slightly in. Now I don't think the reverb is exactly True X, so we're gonna find out right now. 145 by 175. So it isn't. It actually has some squish to it. So the whole time I thought it was True X, but it isn't. It actually has some squish. That's why it's so close to that one. And now that I remember when there was talk about Chad developing this thing, I see he just wanted to make it a little bit more stretched than an Alien, but not quite a True X, so you don't get props in the view. So that is interesting. I never checked that. Now the Chameleon should be very, very close to this guy. That's why I left it for last, because it is basically very similar in geometry. I'm gonna find out right now. There you go. So you can see the motors are almost exactly in the same spot. Not quite, just by a couple of millimeters, but overall the geometry is very, very close. Of course, I follow this a lot and I like it, but this is gonna fly better for many reasons. First of all, it's lighter, way freaking stiffer. The Chameleon is a good frame. It has the lifetime warranty and whatnot, but it's a bit of a noodle in the way it flexes. So that is something that you gotta keep in mind when tuning. Something that's way stiffer is gonna be way better. And finally, putting it next to the RS, the original RS, you'll see how much longer the stretched RX is. Look at where the motors are. So essentially, on this guy, it's mostly racing. Yes, you can do freestyle. You put the camera higher, it'll be okay, but you kind of have to deal with some props in view. So yeah, I'm very excited. Now, there's one more thing I want to do that I want to run by you guys. I want to know what you guys think. This is going to be a 5S setup. I'm actually not building any more 4S setup. Everything's going to be 5S from now on. The ones that are 4S, I'm going to keep flying them, and eventually everything's going to be 5S or 6S. The battery is going to go on it is this Thunder Power Adrenaline 100C 5S 1300. I have a couple of 5S's, but I was able to score these during Black Friday for a stupid low price. So they're really good batteries. I know some people don't like them, but I've had really good luck with the 4S version. So this is going to be the 5S for it. And I'm going to do something different in where I normally run 2400, 2500 kV. This guy here has 2500 kV motors. They're 2207s. And I run this guy on 4S and 5S. A lot of you guys run 5S with a high kV like 2500. That's the one good thing about 5S, that you can run, as long as you change the PIDs, you can run 5S and 4S on the same setup. However, this guy here is going to be a dedicated 5S rig. So I decided I wanted to try the 2150 motors for that, because they're more suited for exactly that 5S, and that's all I'm ever gonna fly on it. Now the dilemma is the following: I fly a lot of X-Nova motors, and I fly a lot of T motors, mainly depending on what's available, the price, and the weight and features I'm looking for. So naturally, actually I ordered these back in October. These right here are the F40 2150 kV for 5S. This is a 2306 motor. I actually fly F40s on other quads, but I personally prefer 2207. The F60 is way better in my opinion. I like the taller stator, narrower, taller. I feel it flies better, but I do like this motor. However, I have a Stingy motor here, which by the way is made by T-Motor, but it's of course for Rotor Riot, the hype trains. And this motor is a lot more like the F60. Now the F60, as far as I know, does not come in 2150 kV. You're stuck with something higher. So here's 2207, 2150 kV. So the same kV, the difference is this one trades 1 millimeter up and 1 millimeter narrower, which to me is better. It has more top end power. It seems to change direction faster because it has a slightly narrower stator. I like the feel of it, but I can't say that this is a bad motor. So I honestly want to hear what you have to say. I like the fact that T-Motor is T-Motor. Yeah, no disrespect for chat or anything. This is all great, but you know, it's like rebranded. So it's great still. Obviously, I would not have it. But so, what do you guys think? Tell me. Should I run the 2207s or the 2306? Same kV on 5S. Just tell me in the comments. I really want to hear it. I'll post this on Instagram too, as I haven't started building it yet. I do have an ESC that I built back in August with hash wiring that was supposed to go in this, and I never did it. So it's just gonna go in there because I already have it. So I just have to decide what motors I'm gonna run. So let me know in the description. In the meantime, if you are considering a Hyperlow frame, this is an absolute one that you should look at. Even if you don't go with a squash and you go with a 2X, they're both fantastic. So just watch out on Instagram for more content, as when I have this ready, I'll have a lot of content posted there and hopefully here too. Thanks for watching. Oh, subscribe, hit the like button, help me out, because every time you hit like, more people see the video. This channel's not too big, help me grow it, because otherwise this is a lot of freaking work. Anyway, Happy New Year, because it's almost in a couple days. Later.